Good morning, folks. I'm trying to get out here in the sunshine. This is where we're at on the turbine tower in the conversion of just a decorative yard one, reinforced to hold something a little bit bigger. So we got it primed. Well, the owner did, Chad. Got it primed, picked up a good mast, 12-foot mast. Save a little money because we don't need to go that high. We've got another 2-foot section with a coupler that'll attach to the top. And then on that, walking around here, you'll see this little goober here. It is just a reducer setup to a bearing on the top. The bearing kind of been tapped down over the threads, if you can see down in there. I'll reach in there and I'll tack weld that around the inside so that the pipe is attached to the bearing itself. And then this is the mount that I used to have, and of course I did a little changing on it. It's not cleaned up, it's not ready for paint or anything like that, but it's close. But it's designed where it actually will take a car alternator. It's a Delco alternator, and we'll turn it into a generator. I've straightened it up. It was pretty bent, it got damaged. I made another upright to mount to so that it'll have 2 front mount points for the alternator. If we get that in the shot there, one there, and then one on the back, which really stabilized it. And then this is all made out of scrap, folks. So I just took some scraps of what I had and I made a frame for underneath. And again, it's got to be cleaned up. But then this portion here, once I get it cleaned up, will actually sit. The bearing is going to actually just barely slide in here. And it's not super snug, but snug enough. I'll get it leveled, and then I'll weld the race of that bearing to this. So what you end up is a good swivel point for this thing to allow it to swing in the wind. One of the questions had been brought up, of course this is all getting cleaned up, and this will get painted hopefully today and be done with it, because I've got a front porch that needs to be trimmed, needs to be scraped and painted, and then I need to go pick up my support beams so I can rebuild my front porch in my house. But one of the questions was about, there's always a question about when you run your cable down through the center of the pipe, is binding. There's a couple different ways to do it. In our case, what the owner wants is, which I'll make the determination, but on the end here, you picture this standing up, a brace can come from here and be welded, if I get my hand in here, welded on an angle up, so that the actual wind vane, back over here, the wind vane can swing 180 degrees, but will hit a stop basically, and be able to swing back the other 180 degrees and hit the stop. That's one way of doing it. Another way of cheaply doing it is to not do a thing about it. Leave your cable freewheel inside conduit that has plenty of room in it, and then check for, if you've had a lot of high winds, you just keep an eye on your stuff, check for binding, and make sure that it hasn't bound up. And if you have to, occasionally disconnect it and relieve pressure on it. But basically that's where we're at. He'll be back over today. He's off work for right now. He had foot surgery. He's recovering nicely. He did almost all the priming here. I'd say 99% of it. We still have to flip it and get the other side. But I'll finish up the turbine topper today, and that way it can be mounted up, get ready to go to his house. There's a mess in here. I haven't cleaned up anything, but there's the Delco alternator we'll use. Well, that's one of them anyway. So it's got 3 mounting points, and it's about hooking it up right, which on the last time I had it mounted, I did not have it hooked up right, so it wasn't producing. These are the original blades, and as you can see, I painted these when it was way too cold, so this paint's flaking real bad, but that's okay. It'll come right off. Get these cleaned up and mounted back on there. What you have to do on the pigtail on that Delco is you get in on that, you plug it in as if you'd mounted it in a car. You can order those pigtails replacement. Take both wires and hook them together, and you actually mount them to the battery post. Basically, what that does is it's internally regulated, as you see right here. Take both these wires and they'll mount get on here, they'll mount right to the battery post there, and then you run your main wire down. What that does is it takes that, because it's internally regulated, so what it does is it basically tricks it. It makes it produce power constantly, and it's also internally rectified, which means it's an AC. It produces AC, but internally it's got a rectifier to produce DC. Now, he's going to do it how he wants to do it. You can leave it DC, but then you got to figure the longer you have to use heavier cable, and the longer the cable you use, the heavier the cable has to be because of amp drop. Now here's some DRMO fines. That is heavy duty old slave cables from the military. If they get rid of them, it's usually because there's something wrong with them, and it's usually in the end. That's heavy. That's very heavy cable, and heavier than it needs to be. Now he's got another choice. He could take it apart. He could take that alternator apart, take the rectifier out, which if you guys look, you'll see videos on this on YouTube all the time. But then he can run standard, just heavy gauge, like extension cord, and he can mount that rectifier on a board on the inside, then hook the AC wires back up, then convert it to DC, which allows him to use a lot lighter cable. But I'm not sure what his plan is yet, but he bought those pigtails. I'm assuming he's going DC. And he also said he's not going very far from the tower to his battery bank, so that's good. But it's 104 amp. So we'll see how this turns out. He's going to be doing some wind testing for optimum positioning of this, hopefully today. But there we are, and that is, I've only had to buy 2 pieces of strap from my local Ace Hardware. The rest of it was just the decorative tower and scraps, and then he went and bought the fittings and everything like that. So I'll do an update when I get this welded, everything mounted. We'll put it on there. So that's where we're at on this, and then hopefully this afternoon I'll be able to show you guys what I got to do on the front porch. But it'll be exciting to get a video up, show those blades actually turning in the air, and maybe get a meter on it and show it producing power. Here's the saddle that I did, just using scrap. Not pretty welds, but I didn't get the galvanized very damn clean, so the welds look just horrible, but it's strong, it'll hold. I've been using my flux core, or my MIG out here in the wind, which is a bad idea. I should have actually dug out my wire feed, but then it's welded at the top as well, so it's in there pretty stable. Everything's supported quite well. So when we get further on, I'll get another video up. And for anybody that's actually watching, thanks for watching. And hey, quick shout out to Van and Kimberly down in Florida. I am glad that Dorian did not smack them and that it made a turn, and I hope everything worked out for the best for him. And we'll give a shout out to Kevin down in Mulvane, Kansas. Hopefully he's watching. He'll pick this video up and he'll take a look at it and see where I'm at. We'll talk to you guys later. God bless you. And just remember what gun control really is. It's a firm grip, and it's a steady aim, and muzzle awareness. That's what gun control is. Taking guns away from U.S. citizens, make them subjects. They're not citizens anymore. And remember, criminals don't really give a shit about gun laws. They couldn't care less. They're gonna get guns if they want them or not, or if the law says they can have them or not. Convicted felons that want firearms can easily buy firearms. They just buy them illegally. So thanks for watching.